Hey friends, before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Nacelle. Now, you know what drives me crazy is when I'm shopping online and I see the recommended products widget that have products in it that have absolutely nothing to do with what I'm looking at. Now, I can guarantee you that you've experienced this too. And that's why I'm excited about my sponsor today, Nacelle. They have an incredible tool that's called Page, and it actually learns your brand voice and understands how your customers shop. And then it creates recommendations that feel personalized, almost handpicked for each visitor. Now, what I love too is how simple it is to use. Their team handles everything with a white glove service. We're talking one-click installation and you're ready to go. Zero tech headaches whatsoever. So that's awesome. One other thing about Nacelle that I think is incredibly special is that it works for everyone that's visiting your store, even first-time browsers who haven't even created accounts yet. With 90% or more, as we know, these are anonymous website visitors that come to your site. And this is now a game changer for conversions because now we have this personalized experience. I've even talked to some merchants that are using Nacelle and their conversion rates have significantly improved. And more importantly, they even have an average order value. And one client's actually up over 18%. So this is really money in your pocket. So you want to turn more browsers into buyers with AI recommendations that actually work. Head on over to nacelle.com. That's NACELLE.com. You can start a free trial with them, kick the tires a bit, actually see what their platform can actually do for your store. You can also check it out, that great blog. You can see why a lot of leading brands are trusting Nacelle to power their growth. And it can power your growth too.
You're listening to eCommerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company, powered by Shopify. Listen to real conversations with partners and subject matter experts as they share proven practical strategies, platforms, and the best Shopify apps to help you accelerate your business. The time is now for you to improve efficiencies, grow revenue, profit, and lifetime customer loyalty. Please welcome your host, startup founder, and strategic advisor, Steve Hutt.
Well, hey there, welcome back to eCommerce Fastlane. I am your host, Steve Hutt. Now, today we're going to dive into something that is really exciting. Shopify just launched, they do it every 6 months, but this is the Summer Editions 2025. And if you haven't heard of Shopify Editions, what it is, it's kind of a biannual kind of a showcase where they kind of roll out a lot of the latest features and kind of the updates across their platform. And like this summer, this edition is packed with 150 new features and enhancements. I'm really thrilled that it's a perfect guest right now that's going to guide us through one part of it. I think it's a very integral part of the editions this year, and it's around the retail side of the business. And I'm joining today on the show with Ray Reddy, and he's Shopify's VP of Product for Retail. Nice thing about Ray, he brings a lot of experience and expertise, and he knows a lot about a lot of these new updates and how they're going to transform both your in-store, and I'm going to call it this omnichannel experience. It's quite interesting kind of what they've done. There's a lot of great highlights. I don't want to give away too much because I want to kind of hear it from him. It's really exciting, some of the things that they have today. I'm hoping today that we kind of uncover a lot of like insights and strategies that you can use right away. This version 10 is completely rolled out now. I want to make sure you understand kind of what it is, the power of it, and the power of retail and Shopify kind of omni-channel now. So, hi Ray, welcome to eCommerce Fastlane.
Hi Steve, thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. So let's start first with the elephant in the room. Like merchants are dealing with rising ad costs and they need, I would believe, every advantage they can to get people to come in store. And so how does this new completely redesigned POS, I'm going to call it this version 10 now, how is it helping merchants now turn, I'm going to call them browsers into buyers, but I'm just curious about like the retail part now, this new version, how it is kind of offsetting all of these costs of net acquiring online, but now we have a retail opportunity now.
Retail is a massive, massive opportunity. As much as we all know, the impact that Shopify has had on online commerce, but 80% of commerce still happens in store. What we see is that the fastest growing brands, not all, but many of them, use physical stores as part of their competitive advantage. And increasingly, they're choosing Shopify not just for online, but they're choosing Shopify's retail solution as well. And I'm happy to talk about all of the reasons, and POS 10 really is a dramatic improvement across the board. There's a long way to go in terms of, like, to me, the end state here is software really needs to adapt to retail businesses and their unique problems. I would say, like, that's the North Star. It's a long journey to get there, but we're committed to doing that. I'm happy to talk about all of the different ways that we see retailers winning by having unified commerce and having the power of Shopify's retail solution.
Yeah, it's amazing. So this version 10, it appears from the surface when I look at it and I've done some research on it that it is a complete overhaul. And I'm just curious about what are merchants saying about this, these early adopters that get access to this platform? Like, what's their initial first impressions?
I'll talk about POS 10 in two ways. I'll use like the iceberg analogy of like what is visible and above the surface.
Right.
But there's a ton that's happened, to the infrastructure and the platform that is not maybe as visible to merchants, but in some ways maybe even more important. So let me talk about both. First, in terms of like the new workflows and the UI, it's a brand new design. It's much more intuitive. The goal is really about making the day-to-day lives of staff that work in retail stores like more efficient, faster, easier to learn. One of the things we know is that there can be like high turnover for retail staff, and businesses don't want like a long training period when new staff start, in a store. So it's got to just be like really intuitive for staff to understand how to check out a customer. So that's one big part of it. And probably one of the main focuses is just like making the day-to-day workflows more efficient and faster. But then there's also like some big new features like ship and carry out. This has been like a long, sort of outstanding thing that merchants have requested because it's cumbersome when it's not bundled into one feature. So we can talk about that. But then even beyond that, like the ability for them to build trust with more background media and theming on customer display. So I think it really spans not just the staff experience, the HQ experience, but even the buyer experience in stores. It's really been a big overhaul, and that's what's visible. I think what's not visible is, I would say the POS is shifting from a product to a platform. And we've made significant improvements to the number of APIs, the extensibility, the ability for developers to build and for merchants to be able to customize all of the workflows. And I can give many examples from like loyalty to little in-app surveys to better understand like where your customers discovered you and how to optimize some of your marketing spend. Back to the question you had of like, how do you give retail merchants like every little edge? I think that's kind of how we think about it, is like the platform has to support giving retail merchants every edge to win.
Yeah, I love the fact, I know that it's been very intentional just to have the Shopify App Store. I think, in the early days when I was with Shopify, that was one competitive moat that Shopify was allowing developers to build products and things that connected to Shopify that Shopify didn't want to build at this point, or they were very kind of niche, kind of outlier connections that just needed to be done just to build a customer journey and whatever the brand was looking for. I also think it's pretty exciting that there's also been a dedicated section, and I'm looking right now on the App Store right now, that just connect to POS, and there's 99 approved apps right now that connect to the POS system. I know you just kind of alluded to that you're very developer friendly. I have a lot of developer people that are listening and a lot of these app and agency partners that are listening, and they're like, hey, wow, I've not built on Shopify's POS. Can you talk a little bit about, you said that there's more extensibility, there's more API calls, there's more APIs available. Can you talk a bit about the intentionality around the developer network now and how it connects to POS?
In 1 year, we've made a massive investment in the retail platform. We've gone from having 4 targets and a handful of APIs to doubling, or in some cases like 4xing just the areas and workflows that can be customized. So the targets, you can now customize like receipts and product details, customer details, order details. There's even event targets. You can observe updates in the cart and react to those things. And so we're seeing developers, when you said, there's 100 approved apps, I mean, there are thousands, maybe tens of thousands of customizations that may not be published in the App Store that merchants or developers have made for various brands. So we're seeing, an explosion of developers and merchants building extensions on the POS. And we just keep investing in making this a platform and making it easier and easier to build on it. So happy to also talk about like some examples of what we see merchants doing.
What's interesting too, I notice, is that a lot of the best, I call them like these plus technology partners, or these plus certified app partners, a lot of them have definitely done the work to say, no, we definitely connect on the front end from a Shopify's kind of retail, or from the e-commerce perspective, but they've also made investments in connecting I guess they just have the infrastructure. And some of the partners that I can see right now that I know, and they've been on a store like they're on the podcast, like Smile, for reviews. I see a lot of review platforms. I see a lot of email platforms. I see a lot of loyalty platforms like the Yacht Post and the Loyalty Alliance, GrowWave. These are all people that have made investments now to be in the POS side. I think that's quite interesting.
Totally. We're seeing a lot of growth there. And, it just really mirrors the experience of online. On online, it really is a platform that is very customizable. And, our goal is for POS to feel very similar, to feel very familiar. So if you're used to customizing the admin and building on the admin, soon building on POS will feel like the components all match. They're all similar. And ultimately, that's the goal, is allow the retail solution to be just as customized and powerful as the online solution is.
Yeah, I noticed that. I think I wrote the word down here like blended retail, but it seems like a very blended retail journey, because you have the online, the in-store, and both now with the ship and carry option. And one thing else I noticed too, by looking through the editions, was they're now allowing these kind of brand customizations like you would do on your own store. You're actually allowing the actual POS device to be customized. And I think those kind of changes on the display, can you talk a bit about why that is built? It just seems so interesting that it's not just like a blank screen or just a logo only. There's a lot of other things that can happen in the customer experience using the tablet as part of the checkout flow in store.
Totally. With regards to the feature, we launched, I think it really just helps build what we call like visual trust. So when shoppers see the same colors, the same logos, the same typography that they recognize from a merchant's online store, it just helps build trust. And what we hope happens is there's just better staff compliance with upsell prompts. And, again, when we think about this as a platform, the point is we want merchants and developers to be able to customize the buyer experience, whether that means adding loyalty, signing up for loyalty, or asking customers a little question to understand how they discovered the store so you could fine-tune your media or your advertising spend. So we want merchants to figure out, what is important to them to understand and be able to customize the buyer experience. We just think that as part of that, making that not feel like it's some third-party sort of thing that is disconnected from the brand, we thought that's important. And so that's part of what we're trying to infuse here, is that it's not just the ability to customize, it's customize while maintaining your brand identity and just continuing to build that trust relationship with customers. So it's a small thing, but a great experience is like the addition of many, many small things.
Yeah, 100%. Another thing I noticed too by reading editions is the AI component that is, I guess enhanced now and baked into POS. And so can you talk a little about Sidekick and then any other kind of AI enhancements that you feel that maybe from a merchant's perspective or even from a customer's perspective using the tablet upon checkout, can you talk a little about how the AI component kind of helps the whole buyer's journey?
When it comes to AI, there's a lot that we've done online there, and Sidekick just continues to grow and expand on its capabilities. Thus far, the Sidekick in retail is definitely something that we're investing in and that we're working on, but we haven't had any announcements around this right now.
Okay. That sounds like it's definitely one of these things where I have a lot of partners on, at least from a retail side or from an e-commerce side, where they say, hey, how can I use AI to enhance either the on-page experience or the customer experience, or can I use AI tools as far as maybe inventory planning? And there's I've had a lot of people on talking about kind of those individual problems they're solving, and it's quite unique. And so I think I'll take the comment that it's in the works and there is some opportunity here that it's going to happen in the very near future. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, huge opportunity. I think that just looking at, there's a lot of AI announcements for what Shopify is doing online and in the admin. And I think it's just safe to assume that a lot of that capability will translate across the Shopify platform over time. This is definitely an area of deep, deep investment for us. And we think we're going to have some very, very exciting announcements to share along those lines.
Very cool. There's going to be people listening today that are in retail. They have a Shopify store. They're using some kind of unfortunate middleware to kind of blend, and they have two silos of data. I think that's one of the advantage of being on Shopify for your e-commerce, but then also running Shopify POS. There were some kind of like physical store limitations in the past. I know that has been completely eliminated because there are some retailers with hundreds, if not 1,000 locations that I know can run on POS. But can you talk a little bit about that, about the migration path that can happen now if someone's on a competing platform, but they know, I'm going to call it like Shopify is the default install for retail. It kind of is for the most part. And you see a lot of mid-market to enterprise brands moving their way over to Shopify. And so it kind of makes sense that if you're already making that move to Shopify for your e-commerce online transactions, why not take care of the POS, your retail side? What does that migration path look like? Are there resources in Shopify, a little bit of hand-holding for more enterprise businesses, or are there agency partners that can kind of help with the transition and the go-live date?
I think this is a big of growth and investment for us. So just zooming out, I think this is probably the most impactful investment that any retail merchant can make today, which is like moving to, I'll use the cliche word unified here, moving to a unified system. And just for a second, let's just not, whether it's Shopify or another platform, let's just talk about the benefits of why merchants should make this move. Commerce is just fundamentally omnichannel today. When you track a customer in terms of how they discover you and the interplay of online and offline and in-store and how that impacts, returns and just the browse and discovery experience, it's not one or the other. And just even thinking that these are two separate things, I have my online customers and my in-store customers, that's just like not the right way. That's not like a good model of how the world actually works today. So that's probably the most important thing to say. And I think what we see brands really struggle with is either these are two entirely different systems and there's no end of headaches in maintaining these systems. The cost is extremely high because you have all of this middleware to connect them. Inevitably, things go wrong with the middleware. And so it's a lot of pain and you're just getting subpar data. You don't have an understanding of your customer. You don't get the insights you need to help optimize your business and fine tune it. So it's actually like lose-lose on both sides. It's a really weird quadrant to be in. It's like, it's more expensive and it's worse. So I don't think anyone should be in that quadrant today. There's many platforms, many POS solutions out there that will say the word unified. I think the only thing, the caution I would have here is that unified has become one of those words that has almost lost its meaning because everybody puts the unified stamp on their platform. What I'll say is that from our perspective, what unified means is a system built ground up to work together. I mean, Shopify is maybe purist in the most extreme sense here, where I can say every single line of code has been written by a Shopify employee. And very few other companies can say that. Most other companies that even, would say unified have like acquired a POS solution or acquired an online solution or acquired like a number of them and have kind of jammed them together. So like, sure, they're all under one brand or umbrella, but like they're not truly one system. And when we say one system, we mean like there is a single customer model that spans online and in-store. The way that developers build and the way that you would customize things work in the same way online and in-store because they're actually built on the same foundation and platform and we're designed to work together. That would be my only caution, is that don't just fall for the unified lingo. Dig in and really go through some examples of what does it mean to do buy online, pick up in store? How does that really work? And what are the limitations that these platforms have? And I'm sure that in doing that diligence, merchants will come to the right decision. And again, we feel very good about where the Shopify platform is today relative to, the other options.
So I want to go back to the version 10. I mean, this is kind of the reason why I have you on today. And I want to talk a little about like the staff and how the staff is able to interact with the new UI, the kind of the day-to-day operations of an employee. Can you talk a little bit about the intentionality behind it and what is unique and different now about POS 10?
I would say two big things. One is that it's faster everywhere that it counts. So the feedback from merchants on the new navigation is that it gets out of the way. And I think that's exactly what you want a good UI to do, is just like get out of the way. So there's like a persistent action bar with the most common sort of workflows like find, add, discount, exchange. And so we see staff being able to just build muscle memory around those, where to tap. And then there's been significant rendering and animation optimizations. And when you get that spike on the long Saturday lines, that sort of speed, it just gives you confidence to kind of crank through it all. Same thing in the cart. All of the line items now are displayed in more detail in the cart without having to scroll around. And so I think the biggest thing is just we hear managers noticing that new hires learn the flow in minutes, not hours. That's what we love to hear. It's intuitive. Training took a few minutes, and in one shift, people are ready to go. So that's one around speed. The other is really helping staff feel in control. And so I think that the new navigation means that you're never more than a thumb stretch away from the cart or products. And so all the context loss is gone. And probably one of the most significant updates has been the Google style search that allows you to search for SKU fragments or even half of a product name. And floor teams basically say the app just feels like, the most competent coworker in the room.
Yeah, this is amazing. I want to talk about early adopters because clearly there was some alpha and beta testers before the kind of official launch. Is there any kind of early results that maybe you can share publicly? You can either call them out as a brand or just be more kind of based on whatever channel they're involved with.
I'll see the feedback in two ways. One is more quantitatively in terms of the metrics that we observe and the improvements there. And the other is just some anecdotal qualitative feedback that we've received. So first on the numbers, where we look at, again, the most common daily actions, like looking up a product, adding to cart, applying discount, or starting an exchange, we've seen a 5% improvement across the board in cart building. So that is the time it takes from starting a cart to actually checking out. I think that's a very significant, reduction in time there. In the most extreme cases for some complex carts, we see almost an 8% improvement in cart building. So I think the numbers tell us that it is just a very significant improvement in speed of being able to check out customers. And again, when stores get busy on weekends, speed just matters. That's the numbers. I think the early feedback, if I were to read 2 or 3 quotes here from retailers, run from a home goods chain that has almost 50,000 SKUs. They really commented on search feels like it's Google now. Fuzzy matches and SKU fragments just work. So that's one example. There was a summer pop-up apparel brand, and the quote there was, our seasonal staff just picked up the new nav in one shift, no cheat sheet needed. So that was great to hear. Another one is a regional toy store, and they just commented on the new navigation saying the new left-hand rail means that we can jump between orders and products without losing cart context, which is huge during the holiday selling season. So I think those 3 really, I think, are a good example of the type of feedback that we're hearing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, there's also a little feature here, I think it's called Smart Search. I don't know if we've talked much about that yet and kind of what impact that is having on the POS 10.
Smart Search function is the new updated search that basically is a fuzzy search feature. So what that means is you don't have to type in the exact character names anymore. You can type in half a name, the gist of a name, even a fragment of a word or a SKU, and still get the right results that show up. And when we look at the telemetry around search, one of the biggest things we track is the number of we call them dead end searches. So you misspell a character and therefore nothing shows up. And just in the first 2 weeks of launch, we saw about a 40% reduction in dead-end searches. So I think that just shows that it's a significant improvement in helping staff find the product they need. And a meaningful number of carts and checkout actually starts with search, not a scan.
Yeah. Wow, it's amazing. I appreciate that efficiency boost. There's nothing worse than going to the proverbial 404 page, right?
So, totally.
Yeah, this is great. Well, this has been very educational for me. I'm on page 2 now of notes, just this life of learning mantra that I have. I think you guys are just continue just building great product. I feel so blessed that I had the opportunity for 6.5 years to actually be in Shopify. I always looked forward to the back chatter for the Editions production team and the cross-channel efforts of so many people that make the Editions come out. And it's funny because I can remember years ago that, as soon as it's kind of released out into the wild, I'm sure it's the same feeling is just okay, great. Wow, okay, with this final stretch, and now it's launched and we're happy, but now it's back to work for the winter editions. It seems like that's one great thing about Shopify is they're always innovating, they're always listening to their customers, they're always improving. Clearly, even in our own conversation right now, that you really created a compelling solution, this unified commerce, as I know I don't want to say it too often, but this whole blended retail journey is quite interesting. I think that's the benefit of POS 10, and it's exciting kind of where things are continue to go. My final question is more about the listeners now and saying, hey, like, what would you say to people that are listening right now that maybe they're a little bit worried about maybe disrupting their current operations? What do you say to them? I know we talked about that there is a migration path and it can all happen seamlessly, but some people may not be doing retail and they should get involved in retail because the opportunity cost of not being in retail, even if it's a pop-up. What do you say to them about what their next step should be?
It's never been easier to get started. So I think just type in Shopify POS, into Google, you'll come to our landing pages and be able to get set up with the right hardware that you need, whether that's selling at a pop-up all the way to, a brick and mortar store or hundreds or even thousands of stores. The platform really supports all walks of in-person selling. And there's a ton of support now to help retailers either migrate from another solution or get set up for the first time if you're only selling online. And as you kind of go through the sign up and onboarding flow, all of those resources will be made available to you. It's everything from internal teams to partners and agencies that are trained to support in doing these migrations and getting you set up so that you're set up for success here. So we understand that beyond the product, this is another very meaningful area that matters in terms of retail success. So we've invested a lot in building an ecosystem, not just internally, but externally, to help retailers make this shift and make sure they're set up well.
Oh, that's lovely. So my takeaways then, number one, go check out the Summer Editions 2025. I'll have the link in the show notes so you can learn more about all of these updates that Shopify has made, not just POS, but that's kind of been our core chat today, and then download and or upgrade the Shopify admin to POS 10, and you can kind of see exactly how that works. I would test and even an order for the ship and carry out feature. I think that's really neat to see how that works. Other than that, thank you so much, Ray, for coming on the show today. I appreciate you and Shopify and the whole team for getting on this recording today, and I wish you continued success with the POS system.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Steve. It was a wonderful chat.
All right, take care. Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you personally for being a loyal listener of eCommerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company powered by Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.